that there had to be a sit-at-home across the southeastern states until the man was released, or until there was whatever was on the agenda was paid heed to. And they actually had gone out on the street to actually enforce it violently in several cases. And we had now the instance of unknown gunmen, which is also, for me, it's also a big issue that happens across this country, and it's not just at the southeast, where you had people go into the streets with guns and basically force people not to go home, not to go out, not to engage in any economic activity. And obviously it had its major downsides, because it meant that on particular days where they were enforcing whatever they were enforcing, people could not go out to make money, they couldn't go out to go to school, the school calendars were disrupted, economic activities were disrupted, and nothing seemed to be happening. We had one or two instances where the governors, like in this instance, declared and told everybody, hey, you have to go out, and threatening to penalize the market people, penalize business people for not opening up. But in my opinion, not enough was being done to give people those guarantees that their lives would, and their lives and their property will be safeguarded. So we do have another instance where the governor has gone out and he's basically patrolled the metropolis to ensure that people were out and about with their businesses, shops were open, and obviously he's in this instance also he's repeated the same threats, telling everybody that, you know what, you guys have to be at your shops or stores, or less we'll revoke your licenses. You have to be engaged in activity on Monday, blah 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 blah, and all those things. Now, it's good that there are people are out at work again, and it's good. I hope that they can actually sustain this, which is the hope I believe of even the people who are down there. Now, there's a lot of some people actually have believed that, oh, the people down there support, and yes, we will have some people who actually support the sit at home for whatever reason they do, and well, it's their choice and it's not their choice. But there's the right of every individual to be able to go out and go around their business without being forced to not without being held or held back, or without having to face that threat to life. What the people of the southeast and Enugu state starting for would want a guarantee that the actual state, the state parties, the security forces, can guarantee that their lives and their property will not be at threat when they step out to do this. It's not just enough to threaten the people that they have to go out and engage in business. You have to give them that guarantee that when they do that, there will be no repercussions to their life. They would not lose their life. And I believe that this is just the start of resolution of a problem. It's not the end of it. The governors need to go forward and understand what the root causes of these issues are, engage their people, create jobs, or at least act to create the environments where jobs can be created, where security can exist, where people can go around doing their businesses, and where they can feel more integrated into the entity that is Nigeria today, and at all states of government. So that's what the governors need to do. That's what's on their table. So it's not just about declarations or going out with doing shows of force. It's actually getting down and doing the work that needs to be done, so people can have some value in their lives and they can see the attraction in following what the government is saying.
So, if people are understandably worried for their safety and they choose to stay at home, should they be penalized for that?
It seems I know why they want to champion it, but it's and that's one of the things that's my pet peeve. Every time I've seen the various governors try to do the same thing, if it's not Enugu government, it was Imo government, the governor the day before,
the
the
population
Anambra.
suffers.
The guys, people don't want to just sit at home and get poor and get hungry. They want to go out. But instead of tackling the root cause, you threaten the people and say, oh, you lose your store. The guy doesn't want to lose his life. He'd rather lose his store than lose his life. But as long as you can guarantee that his life will not be lost, he will go out and do his business and make money.
I totally agree. Who doesn't want to do business?
I certainly do.
Who really doesn't want to go to work? Because it's that's where you get your daily bread. With inflation, I was listening this morning. Inflation at 22.7 officially. Although the MBS, we're not talking about inflation. The MBS has said, oh, they have not taken into consideration the full effects of subsidy removal, effects. You just name it.
So that's
because everybody has looked at it and was looking at the high 20s and maybe low 30s, but that's where we are today. And then you now threaten people, oh, because the state is losing 10 billion, so they should lose 1 million lives just because you want to get 10 billion on Monday.
The state is losing 10 billion because the people are losing 10 billion plus X.
And that's the reality.
Because the state is not the one doing the work. The people are the ones earning the living. The state can only get when the people are making money.
And you have to provide that security for their lives and properties. We've seen over time, WAEC exams were disrupted, teachers were beaten, their motorcycles burned. And this was when you were writing one of the main papers, English and mathematics. We've seen stores get burned, markets,
People getting
beaten, killed,
killed.
almost killed. And then everybody just, the governor walks around in Enugu and he's happy and says, "Oh, they provided enough security." Tackle the root cause, and let's start from there. Then we'll move forward.
All right, let's go on to WhatsApp. We have some messages coming through. Andrew says the governors may be threatening the people because they feel the people are sympathetic to the cause of IPOB. Cisco Delgado says the truth is anyone who's self-employed will never support sit-at-home in the southeast because the government doesn't provide food on the table of such families. All right, let's move on to the next story. And this one comes from Punch. Abia State government says it's discovered 2,300 ghost workers in its payroll system, and that has saved over 220 million naira on monthly wage bills. And this is following an ongoing verification of civil servants and public workers in the state.
In as much as this is necessary, I just think many times we miss the point of how we should govern, and this is one aspect of it. Major news: 2,300 ghost workers. Sensation: 200 million. What have they been doing all this while? Some people have died. Are you with me? Some people have died. They are no longer. Some of them have died for years that you don't see. You're still paying salaries, and you just go on, and you just want to sense that, which is typical with what we have in Nigeria now. Hit the headlines. So we see 200 million. So everybody's clapping for the is it the DG that, oh, I'm doing a great job. But you've been in governance, and the process is clear, and that's one of the reasons why everybody continues to say run government from an perspective. Once you register people, if you want to go through the employment process, it goes through a system that everybody can see. Sometimes you hear people, your file is missing, but salaries are being paid to you, and so it's good job, but I don't expect that when this exercise is finished next year they're not going to review the list of those working, for those who have retired, for those who have died. You get? I remember my dad died so many years ago. For about 3-4 months after, even after we had submitted the fact that he was there, they still paid his pensions. So it's always, what's it called, reacting after, rather than being proactive and having a system that will check all this. People leave service, they resign, they retire. Some of them have paid salaries for another 6 months before you realize, why they retired 6 months ago. Then how do you get those things back? The man will tell you, you haven't paid his compensation. So, and believe me, when it's time to pay his benefits, you probably won't remember to deduct the 6 months salary for when he was not working. And these are systems and things that should be standard in the ministry towards ensuring that, one, monies are not being wasted or lost because people are not doing their jobs. And then people who don't do their jobs correctly or do it wrongly, then they should be fired and taken. If they've committed a crime, then they should be prosecuted along accordingly.
So I like to chip in because the first point when I heard the story was, how did he get there? And like Uade has pointed out, it's a continuum. Why you have the governors probably changing every 4 years or every electoral cycle? You have people who are in the ministries, the SECPAM secretaries, the guys who are paid a daily wage to ensure that things like this don't happen. You have to set in systems and processes. Yes, in Nigeria we have a major problem, and not just in that state, but across the federation, of registration, births, deaths, engagements, all sorts. Because of everything, a lot of things still flow through paper. So people manipulate these systems. They need to go back and look at the system. We don't want to wait and here in the next 4 years again when a new governor comes in and wants a distraction, because we tend to do government by sound bites in this country and release, we've saved another 300 million. Probably 300 million you saved that you probably took a loan to pay in the first place. You didn't generate the money, so it's really not savings. But hey, if this comes towards solving the bigger problem of your data and how you manage your data, then it's all good. But if it's just sound bites like we think it is, then we should just walk in and wait for another 4 years. We'll hear another one.
I mean, these ghost workers have been around probably before I was born. As a child, I remember hearing about ghost workers when I didn't even understand the term. So it makes you wonder, we've moved from that period where things were more manual and things are more automated and digital now. We're still having ghost workers. Will we ever come to a point where these people will be completely flushed from the system? Or will there always be other people trying to game the system?
Everybody's always trying to gain the system. However, you need to put in place proper procedures and checks. We not too long ago, I think it was reported that some people were paying those who work in the what's it called payroll department were paying different people's higher than their grades. So everybody's trying to gain on the system. But the fact remains that with digital technology being in the digital age, you can call a number of those things. And the irony of it is that I do know that from time to time, I can't remember how long it is, the civil service does a verification of your status. Now, your verification of your status is not just whether you're in the system. Some people got into the civil service, they've gone to upgrade their skills by getting a master's, and all those things are reevaluated and used to assess you and your capabilities and where you should be or where you are at that particular point in time. So, is it still done?
So what even the see even the whatever is part of the failures of the system. Yeah. If you employ people today, those people report to someone. They have a job role. You have there's the entire airline. There's entire HR process around recruitment. You create job roles are created. People report to people. You know who is sitting on that. You do budgeting. It's just a failure or a lack of a system, and people will keep taking advantage of it as long as you keep doing. As long as it exists. I can tell you there's a state in the middle, in North Central, so I'll just use middle belt, that the previous governor had employed hundreds of people, basically. But they didn't start work because he couldn't pay their salaries. So guess what? Close to exit, they sent out information telling these people that, hey, the jobs are ready, start coming now. A lot of them came down from wherever they had been hiding across the federation. I went back there, only for the new governor to say, hey, you know what? I can't employ you. I can't bring your payroll because I can't pay for you. But I can almost bet that this guy, somebody somewhere is probably collecting the wages for these guys on payroll. That is the kind of country we live in. That's the kind of system a lot of the states are running. That's why some of the states are not cost effective today. We need to go back and see. We can't. There's no responsibility and accountability. That's what's happening. That's why these things happen. Nobody's looking over you. You can't wait for 4 years before you do an audit. There is an audit department. What's the audit department doing across the state? There's an auditor general for each state.
He audits 2019 and tell us that we've lost money.
Yes, that's what happens. Even in the Senate, we have papers that eight years ago. We found out that what is this? Why do Nigerians we are paying for mediocrity?
Maybe the water is not flowing well in the River Niger and Benue, so these things don't move quickly.
Let's go on to our WhatsApp messages. William says, Uade, are you sure when the salary stops, the government actually stopped paying? Maybe the accounts being paid into just changed. This one.
Well, it still goes back to the same thing. Like Chibuzor said, who's checking? The Auditor General can come in 5 years' time and say, oh, in 2023, we lost 100 million because ghost workers were paid. Some of those ghost workers have even died. That's the ones who created the ghost workers have died themselves.
Real children have died because the money that should have gone to the real children
and gone to other people.
This message is from, I can't see your name here, but it says the Southeast needs to dissociate themselves from treating Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB like they are on the same side. They definitely are not. Shegun says the Abia monies went into certain BVN accounts. The governor needs to go after the crooks. Emeka says it's every time they discover ghost workers. One way I think this can be avoided is a digital signing in and signing out system. Let's see how those ghosts will die a natural death. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The show continues.
We really don't do stories, but it's so.
Sorry?
We don't have many stories, just two.
Just two stories. It's just a scam.
It's just a scam.
What's that? Sorry.
I said we don't only two stories.
I know.
Look how long it took us. Because it pains your heart.
I can imagine.
Somebody has pilfered that money for the last 4 years and they are sharing.
The guy they've shared them, including the director. That
so when they say all these things, what they are going to do? Just sorry, we discover. Everybody can go in peace and we'll start again.
Go and sin no more. and then go and look for the next place that you're going to sue.
This is some crazy
But
stuff.
sometimes when you look at it, you don't blame them. Why? Because you say someone is on minimum wage of 30,000.
That is true. Like, really, how is that person
You
supposed
want to share
survive?
500 billion. On Saturday, we had a session on Nairametrics. And for the first time, my people were like, "Are you for real?" That yeah, me and one guy, we tend to always, be on the same line. But I told him completely. So one lady came and said, "Oh, there was a system that they used to get the 12 million people, blah blah blah." And I'm just like,
I'll tell you, when they were doing trade that money, I had a friend who was working for Luxus Capital. So we're discussing one
Western
day.
Drive. Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. And we see your messages. Please keep them coming. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981. Our analysts this morning, Uade and Chibuzor from Vanguard. Court of Appeal sitting in Asaba in Delta State has affirmed the judgment of the Federal High Court, which held that the Federal Road Safety Commission, FRSC, can only operate on federal roads.
So yeah, I'm not sure how I really feel about this story because it's for me it's two sides of the coin for me. So I think some years ago, if you had told me this, and I said, "Oh no, that we need more of the FRSC on the roads." But in recent times, my recent experiences with the FRSC makes me question the need. And let's be realistic, if we want to act in a true federal system, we do have to start looking at those small bits that appear not to matter. And it's good that this particular plaintiff or this particular chap had actually gone to court to go and seek understanding or interpretation of what the rules of the FRSC are. So I know that even in Lagos, under I think it was I think the governor before this, yes, that was Governor Ambode, there was a strict understanding that the FRSC would stay in its own lane outside the state lines, and while the various multiple of uniformed state apparatus from last March or whatever would cover the state. And we did see some order. We did see last March taking upon in the state of Lagos State taking more responsibility, getting more order. A lot of that has changed over the years. Now you do see prior to this ruling, I hope we did see FRSC basically strolling into parts of the state, and in my opinion, in a lot of instances, just causing traffic where traffic didn't need to exist. I think this just helps us to build I always like when we get court judgments that interpret the laws, at least set a precedent, so that people can actually start following the right path. So I think that's what I might take away, whatever my opinions or whatever I see, I know the various other state transport agencies do. But I think at the end of the day, we want to have safe roads, we want to have safe driving, but we also need good roads, which is a major problem today, really.
Let's start with that.
For those who are playing Donkey Kong, driving on third mainland is like avoiding obstacles who are playing Donkey Kong. They're just bumping.
Let's go on to WhatsApp. Veronica from Enugu says the Enugu governor walks around the city trying to encourage businesses to open, but most of the videos we see and stories we hear about attacks towards the sit-at-home order are done in the rural areas where the sense of security the governor proposes is lacking. Orob says, okay, Orob, I'm going to come back to your message. He said, this is from D. D says, I'd like to know if Wade's family returned the monies paid erroneously to his dad who passed away. Denike Dele.
I guess we did, because my brother was in charge of that, so I'm sure he must have returned it.
Okay. And Denike says, government by sound bites. This has made me laugh this morning. And JP says, we can digitalize payments and should have, but where there is chaos, there is gain. From Punch, the federal government says plans are underway to undertake a nationwide vaccination of cattle, sheep, and goats, and this is following a confirmed case of anthrax in Niger State.
Well, I think a few months back, the federal government had warned farmers, animal rearing farmers, that there were cases of anthrax around the border countries, and I think finally it's gotten into Nigeria through a farm in Niger State. So two things for me. you know you had warned people about this a few weeks or a few months back. What did you do all that period? Did you now start to mobilize and start to go around farms and, do that vaccination? Now, the disease has come into Nigeria, so we're going to do the reaction of looking for farms, and we're going to now start doing vaccinations and all. What were the things that you did when you realized that these things were there? So yes, you would try and prevent it coming into Nigeria, but one of the ways I think should have been prevented was this vaccination that we're not talking about a month after that. And then the second part of it is this. The second part of it for me is this. So all the farmers who rear cattle and don't have farms, the nomadic ones, how do you deal with them? At what point do you get their cattle or their goats or their sheep, are you with me, to be vaccinated? Are we Yes, it's a good idea to vaccinate them, but how, the statistics and the numbers that you require to be able to tell yourself that, oh, okay, we've done a good job. How do you measure that? Because yes, you will go to the uh, well established and acknowledged farms, and if one strays out, and if one strays out, and all. So what do you do? So sometimes, like we said earlier, and Chibuzor reiterated, why are we always reacting to things? We could have started this process a month ago. Yes, it might still have happened, but now you put more Nigerians in danger because you're starting late.
Right. And I believe this warning came about 3 weeks ago.
Sometime in June, yeah.
Right. Okay, let's go on to the next headline from The Nation. Non-oil exports netted $2.539 billion in 6 months.
Okay. Yes, we were able to make 2.353 billion from non-oil exports. Obviously, most of us should know or do know that our major export from Nigeria, apart from our major exports. Okay, on a serious note, I was going to crack a joke.
I knew where you were going.
Our major exports in Nigeria today is oil, and oil-related products. So we have our crude oil, which is what we seem to export more than actually finished oil products. But over the last, as long as I can remember, governments in Nigeria have promised to try and grow non-oil exports, because partly for various reasons. Obviously, to diversify the economy, one. The second one, obviously, is there are changes in the larger global economy around, and perceptions around crude oil and fossil fuels. And obviously, we need to basically keep ourselves away from those risks, or at least manage those risks externally. So governments have actually always proposed that they want to grow the non-oil exports. And how we fared so far. So obviously they said we've done 2.53 billion in the first half of the year, which is a dip from, according to the figures, a dip from our previous, I think from the previous last year's half year. And part of it was attributed to the fact that we had elections. We had elections, transition in government, which affected the economic activities. Obviously, we know a lot of things have happened in Nigeria since from January till now. Obviously, at the start of the year, we had the cash crisis. We had the elections, which was our next event, because we like events in Nigeria. And now we have the subsidy removal and all that. But if you look back at all the things that have happened, yes, we do have some explanations of why things have happened. But one of the things I would really task this government is that if we are going on a journey as Nigerians need to be clearly aware of it. And I'm not talking about some of us who know because we are reading through those papers. It's always great when everybody in the country, at least most of the people in the country, know the direction the government is going and everybody's working towards it. We do need to make this giant step away from oil. It's not going to happen overnight, obviously. We're going to have to take those little steps. And yeah, hopefully last government had said they had done some one or two things, but we saw some of the things have disappeared. But we do hope that this current government, by the time we get a full picture of the economic plans, when everybody's on, where all the players are available and there's some clarity, we are making great steps. We start making those giant steps into diversifying. It's not going to be done by the government, and that's something I would always trying to remind people. Those actions and activities will be done by the people. So you need to create the environment for the people, and for that to happen, everybody needs to do their bit. From the guys who you have employed today in the various ministries, we spoke about agriculture now. If if people are not doing what they need to do, if their delays like that, we will not be able to move out. We'll not be able to move out livestock, for instance, export livestock, because those things will not meet the standards that are required for the external market. We need to get the things need to work in place. We need to think about it systematically, and the little bits need to be put in the places so that they run. It's not going to be one person, or we're not waiting for it. There's no silver bullet here. There's no allergy who's going to set up a refinery and going to make it for us, or set up a tomato company. It's going to be done by the larger part of the people. The government needs to set a clear plan where everybody who's interested and who's involved knows exactly where we're going, and we have some, less policy fluctuations as we move along the line, unlike what we saw in the last 8 years.
All right, and on to a few messages about state should use technology to flush the ghost workers out, just like the current president did while he was governor of Lagos. Okay, Tayo says, I just saw some FRSC officials he listed in areas there's the position of law and practice of law. I'll let us decide what is working. Gary Newton says vaccination. We like to play catch up every time. Why not for once get involved in prevention? Don't forget there have been warnings of floods. What are we doing to tackle this? Only one thing is certain, which is the government will be waiting to play catch up as usual. All that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening, and thanks